Affirmations for the artist losing her spark. Number 1, you know who you are. The same way you might start wearing old clothes that no longer fit, that you've outgrown, or maybe a uniform that you think you need to fit in, you might start creating artwork that you think other people want. And in the same way, an outdated wardrobe calls for a shopping spree, a lost creative spark calls for a walk down memory lane. Remember who the heck you are. I remember, one time in therapy, it was several years ago, I said something to the effect of, I don't know who I am. I feel like I have no sense of self. I'm just kind of performing who I think I should be for other people. It's sort of like trading masks on and off different days, never quite knowing what makes me, like Jennifer the person, happy. And my therapist responded that we all do, in fact, know who we are. The world just convinces us to forget ourselves in servitude of others, and then our true selves gets buried deeper and deeper. I have a theory that losing your creative spark works very similarly, it's not that you are no longer creative or you can't think of the things that you want to make anymore. It's just that it's gotten so buried deeply inside underneath all of this servitude that you feel you have to do for others. And a lot of times this is tied back to social media or the market that you've already started to explore. You start to wonder, should I start making work that other people just want to see? And it can be a very tempting thing to think, right? Because if you are a working artist like I am, sometimes your livelihood does depend on you making work that you believe other people want to see. And I'll make a video about this later on, because I have a lot of theories as to the business side of art and how you can kind of lose yourself in the marketing aspect, and it's kind of like a dance between what other people want and what your creative self wants, because without your creative self there is no art business. It just doesn't exist. You have to maintain your creative self. And so I wanted to tell you sort of what I did back then to remember the joy that I had for life and what you can possibly do to remember the joy that you have for your own creative journey. So back then I was trying to remember, when was the first piece of joy that I could really remember in my childhood where I felt like I didn't really have many worries, if you know what I mean. I felt like I sort of woke up every day, I just lived my life and everything was fine. You know what I mean? And for some reason I remember being 16, 17 years old, before I had bills to pay, as they say. And I asked myself sort of like, what did my day-to-day look like? Like, what did I do back whenever it was easy for me to tap into that joy? And the answer for me was I spent a lot of time reading in the evenings. I would occasionally go out with friends. I had a lot of cozy blankets in my bed. Sometimes I would even make like a little blanket fort, because at the time I lived with my sister and we had a bunk bed. So I would like drape the blanket over top of the bunk bed and I would sit in a little blanket fort. I would sing guitar in my room sometimes. There was a lot of things that I did that didn't serve a purpose, the way that adult life, it feels like almost everything serves a purpose these days. And so I looked at my present day life and I asked myself, is any of that here like at all? Because honestly, I can't remember the last time I made time for reading. I've been trying to look for new books to read, but like nothing sounds particularly appetizing, as they say. Or when was the last time I just let myself sit in bed, all cozied up with my blankets with nothing to do? As I look over to the corner now, my guitar is genuinely out of tune, sitting just there in the corner of my room. So if you're feeling a little bit lost, try maybe just for like a moment, 15 or 20 minutes or so, to revisit the joy that you felt with your inner child. Maybe you can get her to feel it again. I know after recording this little voice note, I'm going to go and look for a book to read, I suppose. Similarly, if you are having a hard time finding your creative self, maybe try to think back to a time when expectations didn't matter, when you didn't care what other people thought. The moment of pure joy in the process, the way it felt to simply create. That is what you need to remember. Joy in creating again. Number 2. You can take your time. Another common culprit, as they say, for the loss of a creative spark is pressure. For me, most often, this was a feeling of pressure to perform quickly, to find results quickly, reach success that I've dreamt of so quickly. And we often forget that good things take time. Come on, man. When was the last time you can remember something incredible happening fast? Because if you go to like friggin' McDonald's, you're going to get your food fast, but it's not going to taste good. But if you go to a good restaurant, it's going to take a little bit longer, but it's going to taste great, you know? So let things take time. And listen, I'm not saying it's easy to just say, oh, it'll take time, it'll all be okay, because I know, I feel that too. I feel the anxiety, I feel the pressure. But sometimes if I can just allow myself for maybe like 5 minutes, remember how far I've come, remember if you talked to yourself like 5 years ago today, your 5 year ago self would be like, you're doing what? You're doing what? Like, you know, like they would probably be so freaking excited for you. Even if you haven't done a lot like achievement wise in your life, just the fact that you had the bravery to choose this life, like to choose what to do, the bravery to start a new hobby, to start a new job, to do anything in your life that requires you to sit back and say, like, what if? It's to me, it's this creativity that you apply not only to canvases or to your workstation, but to your life, where you look at your life and say, how can I make this beautiful? How can I make this uniquely my own? And so maybe we can take a minute and just give ourselves our flowers for just trying at all. Instead of letting the pressure of instant success crush you, let's try to find smaller metrics. Rather than, I want to be a full-time artist today, I want it now, or I want my painting to be perfect the first try. Try to give yourself some grace. Say, thank you, self, for 15 minutes that you spent in the studio today, for even picking up the brush once this week. Gratitude can genuinely carry us such a long way. Fear keeps us still. I know for myself when I'm having particularly hard weeks with trying to make sure that I'm staying consistent, you know, like keeping on track of the track that I want to walk in life. What I usually do is change my goals from result-based goals, like, oh, I want to finish a painting, or I want to finish this one thing. I always change it to process-based goals. So I want to start a painting. I want to spend 15 minutes in my studio. I change it to actual input instead of output, and that leads me to feeling much more relieved and accomplished whenever I've done something. I've been like, hey, I spent 15 minutes in my studio today, isn't that so cool? You know, like you've really got to break the large goals into bite-sized pieces. And I know it sucks, I know it hurts sometimes to be like, but I want it now. I get you. I have I want it now syndrome all day, every day. And this is about reminding ourselves to create a daily habit of taking a step back and saying, whoa, I've got my whole life ahead of me. And this is my life. I've chosen it already, you know, like, this is my life. What is the rush? You know, what's the rush? Let's just deep breath in, deep breath out. You got this. I know you got this. What if just for this 1 week, every morning, you find something within your creative practice that you're thankful for having achieved, no matter how small it is, and end that little gratitude session with the affirmation, I can take my time. I'm not behind. Promise you that. Number 3, fight for your spot. Earlier last week, I hit a bit of success, which honestly, okay, I'm gonna be so real with you right now. It left me feeling pretty paralyzed. Okay, here's what happened. A Threads post of mine drove over 10,000 views to my art shop and resulted in over 70 orders and about $1,800 worth of sales in 2 days. Like, for a girlie like me that makes most of her revenue at in-person markets, this was completely unheard of. I was excitedly yet somewhat nervously packing orders like a madman for about a week. And I'm extremely, extremely grateful that all of these people chose to invest in my shop. In a lot of ways, it was like a dream come true. And yet for some reason, I couldn't help the nagging sensation at the back of my brain somehow that said, but are you actually worth it? After that post, for some reason, I felt so much anxiety whenever I would go to make new posts. It feels like sometimes when success hits, the bar rises, and you don't know if you're going to be able to reach it again. For several days, a week, time is a mystery to me, honestly. It's like a ghost, so whatever period of time that was, I felt so much anxiety towards my art practice and my business. I made a few posts, they didn't perform well, and then I sat in my feelings of, what if it never comes again? What if that was it? This is a scarcity mindset that tries to tell me that there's a fixed amount of good in the world, and I just swallowed it all up. Time to be thirsty in the desert forever. In the midst of my melodrama, I ended up opening up Netflix and just cuddled up with my blanket and my kitty cat and a box of Doritos. Not a box, that's a box of Cheez-Its or a bag of Doritos or Cheetos. You know, the cheesy good crunchy foods. And I binge watched Queer Eye. So Queer Eye, if you don't know, is a show where about like 5 people or so, I'm very new to this show, so I'm going to explain this pretty poorly, but about 5 people help redesign the life of a random person. They give them a full makeover. They redecorate their house. They teach them how to cook. And in one particular episode, I think I'll never forget the kind of chills that this scene left me with, because especially in the moment that I was in and the emotional state that I was in, it just spoke to me so hard. In that moment, like I was just like deaded. Someone on the show was going through a loss. They felt like their life was over. And why keep trying? Why keep showing up in life when, from their perspective, the best part of their life was over? And now it's just time to like wait out the rest of time and like hope that, you know, like they just felt this feeling of grief. There was almost like no way to dig them out of it. And the thing is, the show called them out on it. They said, you're acting like the best days of your life are over, and that's just not true. Your best days are still ahead of you. You have so much life left to live, but not if you just give up. Fight for your spot. And when he said that, something in my brain just shifted. Fight for your spot. I was sitting here in my feelings of, what if I'm not good enough? What if no one will like the work that I made? I had, in the process, forgotten my agency somehow. So what if no one likes my work right now? I can make something better. If this is the life that I want, I will not sit around just waiting for somebody else to hand it over to me, to tell me whether or not it's allowed to happen. I choose it. I fight for my spot. Remembering my own agency in all of this, the power to pivot and change, the ability to learn and grow, it shook me out of that freeze state that I was in, and I started painting again. For those of you stuck in what if it never happens, what if no one will enjoy my work, stop waiting for someone to give you permission. You move first. Fight for your spot. I highly recommend you pick up something fun and creative to do now, and remember the joy that you had as a child. Not everything that you make needs to be for someone else's eyes. Those are my affirmations for today. And if you would like a little letter from me that I write every single month, you can join my Small Joys Club. It's a cute little club where I mail out a letter and an art print every month to remind you of the small joys in life. If you liked this video style, please do let me know in the comments. It helps me out. I have recently found that the more my art business grows, you know, I don't know if y'all have also heard of like nervous system, like regulation-y stuff around business and stuff like that. But there is a pillar of it around visibility, and I think that I'm struggling a little bit with the visibility aspect of like how visible my business is, if you know what I mean. And so that's kind of affected my ability to feel comfortable on camera for some reason. So being able to just record my voice this way has felt really freeing and nice for me. Of course, I'm going to go back to camera stuff eventually, but I like having the option to make a video in this style. That way, when I'm feeling lower energy, I can still, you know, remain consistent, post, but without feeling like I need to, you know, get all pretty in front of a camera, you know what I mean? It is what it is. Anyway, let me know your own art journey. If any of these pieces resonated with you, as always, spending any amount of time here on this channel with me is a gift. I seriously do consider it a gift. And for that, this humble artist says thank you.